Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be taking a look at Western Legends published by Kolossal Games and designed by Hervé Lemater. Now before we get started, I do want to mention that we use the iron clays when playing this game. They give a really classy feel to the whole game because you're going to be using the 10s and 20s instead of the bills provided. So I really like those, so just a heads up, we do not use the currency that's in the game. In addition, we also use the playmat instead of the board that comes in the base game, so we are not actually going to have any of the boards stored in the box here because the playmat has all of them combined into one. The last important thing is outside of the box, we have a giant organizer here that's going to contain all of our really heavy pieces as well as our pieces that we'll be pulling out every time. So this actually does not go in the base game box, but you can put it in the base game box, but if you do, it'll get some lid lift. Right now we have no lid lift. So I like having this on the outside because you simply just put it to the side. But if you do need to store it or maybe you want to condense things, you can definitely put it inside, but you will have lid lift. Now this is a organizer from the Dollar Tree. I'll put a link in the description below, but it's going to basically contain all of your tokens you'll be using throughout the games or you need to populate the board with. We got our bounty tokens, our event tokens. We've got all our different longhorn tokens that you can shuffle up and put in here. Your nuggets, your deeds. You've got your traveling salesman, your connection tokens. We've got a replacement first player marker. This is actually from PAX, but I think it works really well here. We've got some dice for some of the certain item cards. And so we also have your bonus die here in case you want to take a legendary turn. We've got all your different tokens for the new story mode. We've got all of our different bandits in here with their silver bases with the correct numbers affixed to their bases. So they fit here so they don't get crushed by anything. You've also got your sheriff over here, as well as your man in black tokens over on this side. We've got our prospecting dice here. And lastly, we've got our frontiering tokens. So that's everything in this organizer. It's really nice to just flip it up, put it to the side. It makes setup a breeze, and it's also not going to get in the way of everything inside of this main box. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the actual box and see what's inside. So let's go ahead and lift the lid here. And inside, you're going to see that we have all of the player boards on top. So each character has one. Put those to the side. Up next, we have the different player aids. In particular, this one is from Blood Money. This has all of the iconography from the game. The only thing that this one is missing are the poker hands. So when you get your player aids, you got to pick the one that you think is most appropriate. I really like these because they're going to give all the information that's game specific, as opposed to something that usually is common knowledge in the case of poker hands. Underneath that, we have the complete rules guide. This is a really nice hardcover version of the entire set of rulebooks, and that way you have an appendix for all of your information here. Everything you need is going to be in this one, including all the effects, how the things work, all of your expansion content. Everything is in here. Extremely nice. So that's all in this Western Legends complete rules reference. Underneath that, we have our new quest board. This is from the Blood Money expansion. It's going to replace the original quests in the game. And speaking of those, they're on the side here. Large tarot sleeves, but these are going to have those special abilities as well as the flavor text and the actual quest that's going on. So really neat. I'll leave a link in the description for all of the sleeves that I use for this copy of the game. Next, we've got a fun deputy sheriff star. You can give this to the first player. It's got a little pin so they can put on the shirt, but if you don't want holes, just put it in front of that player. Underneath that, we have the new upgraded Legendaries token bag. This actually has room for you to put your hand, and now the Legendary tokens are actually sizable poker chips. So they're going to give you those random amounts of LP at the end of the game based on finishing your personal goals. On the right side here, we have all of the different characters that you can choose from. So they're just in simply a plastic bag. You pick the one you want, you play with them. All of the player components are here in this section. You just simply include your Pharaoh markers, your player marker for your piece, all of your bullet tokens, your wound, and then your story markers. They all just fit in here nicely. You're going to have one of those in a small plastic bag for each player. Next, you're going to have all of your I use these every game cards. So this is a silica gel packet in here just to keep everything nice and dry, warped. Inside, you're going to have your combat cards for all the different encounters. You're going to have the traveling salesman cards. That's what these look like. And then these are your event cards. They look like this, and they show which of the tokens will appear. And then you also have your different train cards, and these are going to show the events on the train when you try to rob it. Lastly, you have the new deed cards that are going to be in here, allowing you to own different parts of the area. And then you have the wound cards, which can give you some permanent effects. So pretty scary to get some wounds now. Ouch. To the left of that, we have all of our extra money and sleeves, just in case we run out of any of these things or anything breaks. So once again, we do not use these. We instead use those iron clays. On this top section, we actually have an organizer that's from the Marvel Champions base game. That game has already outgrown its box. It did after the first couple of expansions. So now here is the organizer from there. It gives you a nice well for your cards, as well as a smaller well for your smaller cards. So in this smaller well, we have two different things. The first thing we have are all of the different individual player quests. So they're just grouped based on character. They just kind of sit in there. And then lastly, we have the randomizer setups. So that way, if you do want a completely random game, if you don't want to use one of the setups that are in the Western Legends Blood Money rulebook. So that's all there. And that's just going to go in that left side. In the main well here, we have the train, just because it's kind of long and awkward. Don't want anything to break, so that fits nicely in that empty section. But then we have all of our large cards. So these are going to come in lots of different sections. So the first section here is on the right, and this is going to be your active deck of cards. There are lots of different cards that you can use in the game to replace the different numbers, and we like having a nice variety, so we've replaced a lot of them with some of the new ones, and some of the old ones are still in there. So lots of different choices here with how you want to play, and there was a reprint that included lots of replacement cards for this game, so just be aware that does exist. So all of these are in here, super nice, and you can really customize this deck based on how you want to play the game. Up next, you'll see that we have all of the base game story cards. If you don't want to play with the new story system, they're all still in here, and there is a whole bunch of these story cards. They all have the ways that you're going to be scoring extra points, and then special abilities on the back. Up next, we have a variety of cards, and these contain all sorts of things. We have the Man in Black cards that are going to change up how the game plays based on the player count. So these are all just in here like so, right there. All our Man in Black cards. We also have more of these cards here that are going to replace the base deck of cards. So these are going to change up the abilities, give you new effects. Really, really nice. I like the variety here. We have our bandit cards that you'll be using when you attack a bandit, and these show special abilities that these bandits may have based on the number that they are. Really like these. And then you have these sheriff abilities. These are going to give all sorts of abilities to the sheriff, which is really fun. Up next, we have our gang and posse cards. These are going to be able to give you some extra abilities, which is nice, depending on who you join. Up next, we have our character cards. These are going to give you your ability once you get to that 5 LP, as well as all of your starting resources and where you begin the game with a little bit of background for who you are. So those are all of the different character cards. Really, really fun. Up next, we have the titles here. These are going to give you some sort of special ability for each game you play. Like, hey, you want to be a prospector. Players get to draw a poker card after they deposit 4 or more gold nuggets at the Dark Rock Bank. Very cool. This is going to change up the game and make you want to maybe hold on to your nuggets a little bit. Very, very cool. So it'll make certain things in the game a little bit more powerful. So those are the titles. And then lastly, we have another set of these Man in Black cards. There are 2 different sets that you can get that are going to change the game in different ways. So this is the multiplayer variant. And those are all the cards in this well here. Let's go ahead and look down here at the different trading posts. So this is the traveling trader. This one here is going to have all of the stuff that's going to be going into your trade postman. So these items will be randomized, but they are pretty fun nonetheless. You've got all sorts of new items here, including my favorite new card, the Burrow. I think that's so cool. Increase your hand size by 1. That seems extremely powerful. And then when it's flipped, increase your hand size by 2. Love it. So I really like the way this works, and that traveling trader you're actually going to have to find on the board. Unfortunately, this is the only one that is not wood. I don't believe they offered it. If they do, please let me know down in the comments below. I'd like to find a wooden version of this traveling trader post. Up next, we have our trading post itself, and this is going to contain a couple of items as well as your stack of legendary items. You're going to shuffle those up, and when somebody completes a quest or something that gives them a legendary item, you'll have that stack ready to go. Otherwise, everything will go here, and you'll populate that based on the way you've decided to start your game. And lastly, we have the large general store. This is going to have all of your items that are in the standard town, and you'll have lots of choices here. And once again, this will get populated based on the scenario you're playing or using those randomization cards. So lots of different things to buy: weapons, horses, gear, all sorts of cool stuff. So that's everything in the core box. Let's go ahead and pack it up. So first off, let's start with that general store, and we'll just put it here on the side like so. We'll put in our 2 other trade posts. So our traveling trade post is going to slide in, as well as our standard trading post is going to go ahead and go in right after that. Next, we have all of our I'm going to use this every game cards. They're going to slide in on that right side. Our money and extra sleeves, just in case. They're going to slide in between the divider and that extra box. We're going to put in all of our additional large cards with all those special abilities, the extra player cards, the Man in Black cards, and the character cards. They're all going to slide into this main section, followed by our story cards, which are going to come in afterwards. And then lastly, our active player deck of poker cards. And those all fit snugly into this organizer. Lastly, we're going to put that train in there, keep that nice and safe so it does not get crushed. Up next, we'll take those tarot-sized story cards and put them on the right side here. And to keep them in place, we'll take those large, heavy poker chips and put them in that crease there, so that way everything is nice and organized. So that way nothing is going to get crushed and everything stays where it belongs. In this new crevice, we're going to put all of the player components for all of the different players. We're then going to place all of the different character miniatures over on this right side. Put our Deputy Sheriff star down here, and then our new story event board on this left side. You'll notice that the legendary items stick up a little bit because there's a lot of them, so you'll put these two things on the side so that it doesn't crush them. Finally, we'll put that player aid like so, our rulebook on top, and then all of our different player boards like so. And that is everything in Western Legends, the complete collection. If you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comments below. How do you organize your copy of Western Legends? What do you think of the game? I'd love to hear what you think. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.